Good morning. My name is Connie Arsenault, and I'd like to welcome all of you to the UAA's 12th webinar. UAA webinars are just one of the benefits of being a UAA member, so I thank you for your membership. Please welcome Jesus Vetencourt from Wright Tree Service, who will be presenting on job behavior observation, improving job site safety with mobile technology. I would like to thank our sponsors, Davey and CN Utility Consulting, for their support, which allows us to provide the webinars to members for free. Today is the first time we are using GoToWebinar for both the audio and visual. All attendees are on mute throughout the call to control for background noise. If you have any questions during or after the presentation, please type your question in the area to the right. I will relay the questions to the speaker. We will take as many questions as possible. Remember, if you did not provide your ISA certification ID on the registration form and you would like to earn 1 CEU for this hour's session, please contact me, Connie, at this address at the below the bottom of the screen. Now I'm going to turn the program over to Jesus.
Thank you very much, Connie, and thank you for facilitating this presentation today. I want to, like Connie say, I want to additionally thank everybody who took time today to attend this webinar. I hope that your time is worth it today. We are going to be talking today about safety, and we are going to be talking about safety audits, more in how we marry mobile technology with those safety audits. The presentation is called Job Behavior Observation, Improving Job Site Safety with Mobile Technology. My name is Jesus Vetencourt, and I work for Wright Tree Service. I've been working at Wright Tree for almost 8 years now, and have been a part of the UVM industry for the same amount of time. So with this in mind, I want to start the presentation, and I want to start by giving you a little bit of background and a statement of the reason for the presentation and the information that we're going to be covering today. I think that safety is a priority in the utility vegetation management, and I think that that's a fair statement that everybody on the call today and everybody in the industry can attest as true. I think that more importantly, in the last few years, I think that we have seen a joint commitment between utility, contractor, vendors, and everybody in the industry to make sure that safety is their priority, and that we invest resources to make sure that everybody who performs work in this industry is safe at the end of the day. Within this safety, and when we talk safety, I think one key ingredient of that is safety audits. We personally at Wright Tree, we call it job behavior observations, but safety audits, they have a number of names. Some of you may call it safety audits, some of you job behavior, some of you job site audits. Some of you may have a very well formal program. Some of you may be doing safety audits in a very, but ultimately I think that safety audits and observing what's happening on the job site is a very key ingredient to a safe operation. And with that in mind, when we talk about safety audits, we normally are thinking on, for the most part, a piece of paper or a form that we complete or we fill out when we are at the job site observing the operation. So A couple years ago at Wright, we took the time to look at that process and look at what we do with safety audits, and we thought that that process needed to be improved. It needed to be improved for a number of reasons. One, because I think that we were continuing to do the same thing after and over again, and we were not seeing the results that we wanted. Two, because we wanted to facilitate the process of performing a safety audits for our employees, our supervisors, or our management, or safety department, our GF, to make sure that everybody was encouraged to perform those safety audits and ultimately impact safety at the job site. And what we decided was that we were going to look at how can we improve this process with the resources available to us. And the number one thing that we realized is that there was this technology available that we were applying on a number of other things related to our operations, but not necessarily to safety, and that was mobile technology. When we think of mobile technology, we think on a number of things, but normally we don't associate that with safety. So we realized that there was a good opportunity to improve our process of performing a safety audit if we incorporated some mobile technology, and the result of that is what I hope to demonstrate to you today. My goal for today is to show you the process and the outcome of that process, and how we think that mobile technology can ultimately impact safety. With that in mind, when we talk about mobile technology, we normally start thinking on, you know, our cell phones, and we start thinking on mobile applications and this whole revolution of technology that have been happening for the last 5 to 10 years. And what we thought was, okay, how we can take that technology, incorporate that into our safety audit process. And obviously what we realized is that we needed to bring that safety audit, that form that we were using before, into a mobile version of it, and make it available for our employees using their mobile devices. Another piece of this is that created an opportunity for us to get that technology and not only use it for capturing the information or collecting the information in a mobile technology version, but also to generate other pieces that we didn't have before. One of them is alerts, and I'll demonstrate to you that in a minute. Then what comes out of that, the two first pieces, is reports. Obviously, a lot of us know that we collect a lot of information, but what we do with that information is what's really important. And in this process, we also realized that we were collecting a lot of information with the paper forms, but we were not necessarily following up with the information that was collected. And creating reports to go back and look at that information was becoming a challenge. So that was another product of the process improvement project that we initiated. And the last component of this is with the volume of information that you collect on safety audit forms, what do you do with that information after you look at a report, and how you can identify, you know, valuable information, safety trends, and things of that nature that can potentially start affecting not only job site safety, but the development of training and policy that could potentially improve safety on a more proactive approach. And that brings us to something that I like to call proactive prevention, which is ultimately the goal of everything that I'm talking about here today. And is, how can we prevent, how can we take initiative, how can we improve process related to safety that could potentially prevent incidents rather than develop policy and training based on things that already happen, which is normally what we tend to do by nature. So this is the overall concept, and I'm going to break this into small pieces and demonstrate each one of these for you. The very first one that I want to cover is the mobile application or the mobile form. As I mentioned before, when we look at or when we talk about safety audits, we normally associate that with a paper form, something that we have with us in the job site, and then we have to fill it out, and then we have to scan that form, send it somewhere to someone, or maybe email that form. In some cases, go back to your office and drop that form with somebody. But normally we associate that with a paper form. So we knew that we needed to start there because I think that the work volume of everybody in this industry is high enough, and part of this was can we make it easier for people to complete the safety audits so that they feel encouraged to complete them, and ultimately that will impact safety. So we started there, and then we created basically an application, which is a mobile form that captures or collects the data that we previously had on a paper form for job behavior observation. Right now, I'm going to show you in the screen how that mobile form looks like, and talk a little bit about the benefits of that form. What you're seeing right now is my iPhone screen. Hopefully I don't get any calls right now, but what you're going to see is how that mobile form, which is this JBO app UA that I have for today's presentation, works, and the benefits of it, and the things that we now know that we didn't know when we first started working with this. So our employees, when they are at the job site and they're ready to start a job behavioral observation form or a safety audit, they launch the mobile application on their phone, and they can at that point start performing the audit. One of the benefits of doing this from their phones, beyond not having to do it on paper, is that when they load the form, a lot of the information that before they had to fill out manually is now available to them on predefined menus. So for instance, if they have to select a client, they can select a client from a list rather than trying to remember that client name or typing that client on a form, and then having inconsistency issues with IDs and name and things of that nature. So then we have the same applies for a few other things that we work with internally, like our division numbers and our general foreman names and things like that. So they can select that information from a predefined. And this helps us keep consistency and create more standardization of the information and the data that we collect. And later I will point out to the benefits of doing that. A couple other things that we did with the mobile form is that it has a GPS location and a timestamp attached to it. So what that does for us is that when our employees are logging in and are ready to perform a JBO, the system will automatically track the GPS location and attach a timestamp to the form. And that brings some benefits, but primarily the accountability piece. The bar gets a little bit higher for guys because they understand that location is tracked, and that also can help down the road our risk department or safety department with incident investigations and things related to that. We also did a couple other things with this, and we made it very, very simple for employees to fill this out, and I think that that's a key ingredient for mobile technology and for mobile forms is that they have to be very simple. One of the benefits of doing it from the phone, and we normally at Wright pretty much everybody in the organization uses an iOS device, whether it's an iPhone or an iPad, and that brings some benefits to us because training is minimal since these devices are so simple to use. And that also helps with filling out the form, making it very, very simple for them. A couple other things that we did is, one of them is that we translated the form to Spanish within the same form, so we don't have to have a separate form to collect this information in some of the areas where some of our employees would like their crew members, or some of our employees would like to read the form, and facilitating this information in Spanish. Our employees fill a number of questions, and as you're seeing on the screen, we have form name, we have the crew job number or crew ID. I know there are a number of names to that ID. Total number of crew members activity upon arrival. What are our guys doing the moment that they show up to a job site? They also have to pick the equipment type, the equipment present at the job site, whether it's a bucket truck, a chip truck, some right-of-way equipment. We are also collecting the unit number for tracking information. I'm just going to enter a random number here. And then we are also collecting the address. I know that I say that we collect the GPS location, but we also request that our guys enter an address for the purpose of being able to show that information on some email alerts that we send out of the form that I'll show you here in a little bit. So we collect some of the ID information here, and then we move into the actual safety audit or job behavior observation piece of it. We have divided our form into 5 sections, and one of them is personal protective equipment. So with that in mind, what we try to do is we group the questions that are similar or in the same category within a section of the form. And that way we keep the process a little bit cleaner and easier to follow for our employees. So we have the personal protective equipment section, and as you can see, a lot of the questions are very familiar for you. We have hard hat, safety glasses. We have, fall protection. We have leg chaps, hearing protection, foot protection, high vis protection. One of the things that we did too, as a benefit of using mobile technology, is that the consistency of how our employee fill out the form is basically 100%, because there is no options other than providing a yes, no, not available, or not applicable answer to the question. So our employees don't have any other option but to answer the question in that manner, which it keeps consistency at, as I mentioned, at 100%. And then another benefit is that we cannot skip or forget to answer questions related to the safety audit form. Because if, for instance, you can see here that I haven't provided an answer to the high V protection question, if I try to move forward in the form, the application essentially is going to tell me, no, you forgot to respond a required field. So, and if I scroll down again to that question, it's going to be highlighted in red, and it's going to remind me that I forgot to answer that. So that also help us increase the consistency and make sure that our that our guys are looking at the information that is relevant out there in the field. Then we have a section for ergonomics and positioning, where we look at, essentially how our guys are positioning themselves and using their body when, they're lifting loads and things of that nature that we see a lot in the field. Then we have another section for housekeeping, which I think is very important, and it's also one of the areas of improvements across the board because of the very nature of our job out there in the field. So we look at some questions related to housekeeping. Then we move to the following section of the form, which is vehicle and equipment use. Here we're looking at things related to our equipment, whether our guys, if they're moving a vehicle, whether they're using their safety belts, the emergency brakes are engaged, proper chipper and trailer attachments, wheel chucks, a lot of those components that need to be properly in place for our equipment and our guys to be safe. So our guys have to pick, again, like with everything else, everything is a yes, no, non-available, non-applicable question. The reason why in pretty much every of the questions we have a option to select the ANA, whether it's non-applicable or non-available, is because not every one of these questions are going to apply to every one of the job sites all the time. So we want to make sure that our guys have an option to select that, and that will not impact the way the JBOs are collected, the information is processed, and the form is scored. So we have a number of questions here on our policy and procedure section. A lot of them are standard questions for the industry. Some of them are particular to Wright 3 service, but ultimately they're all related to safety. So we have a number of them here, and then we get to the final page of the form. The very first, or the upper section of this last page, is related to client specific, and what that is that we reserve an area in our form to position their questions that are safety related that come from our client. So in some cases we have some clients that they have some very specific items related to safety that they like to see on the job site, and we have worked with them, and we have incorporated some of those questions here in our job behavior observation. And the reason why we can do that too is because using the mobile technology, we can track those questions separate, and we can score them separate on the JBO within the volume of all the data collected from the field. So we can ID those based on the client, based on our division, based on our general foreman, and so on and so forth. So they provide a question for client specific if there's any question that relates to their client. And then we have a final section here where our employees can upload a picture to the form. So if there's something on the job site that requires particular attention, or that could potentially be helpful down the road when we're looking at the safety audit or the job behavioral observation, and we think that a picture could illustrate the behavior that we observe in the field, our employee had the opportunity to attach that to the form. That's a very nice feature for that too. And then they can enter remarks or They can enter corrective actions, because the idea of this is, especially the corrective actions part of it, is if we observe a unsafe behavior at the job site or something that needs attention, needs additional training, what we're asking our employees is to enter that information in the corrective actions. Normally, the way I think we're trying to see this is that if you, on any of the questions for the safety audit, if you selected no, so meaning there was an unsafe ad or there was something that needed to have attention, then something needs to be entered on that corrective actions, because if you saw something, then we want to see action right there on the spot and pay attention to it immediately. Then with that, we request our employees to enter their email address. The idea behind the email address, and I mentioned it before, is that we trigger alerts from the email address that you enter here. So I'm going to enter my email address for the purpose of the demo, and then I will show you what I'm talking about when I say alerts. Then there is a section for signatures, the person who is completing the JBO, and then there is a section for the signature of the foreman of that crew that we were observing. The main idea behind that, having the foreman sign the form too, is because we want to encourage that communication. We want to encourage the time where after, you know, the general foreman, a safety supervisor, maybe a manager is in the job site and is performing a JBO. Once he or she completes that form, we want to make sure that there's a connection, there is a relationship there between what we're doing in the form and relating that back to the foreman, and making sure that the crew as a group understand what we were doing and our feedback from the form. There is a JBO score. We have a score tied to every one of the questions in the form, and I'll explain to you a little bit more what we do with that score here in a minute. Let me sign it here. And there is a message reminding the person completing the JBO to please make sure you take time to review this JBO with the crew. As I mentioned here a minute ago, I think that that's a key ingredient for this too, making sure that we relay the information back to the crew to have that immediate impact on what they're doing at that time. And then our employees, all they have to do is to tap on this submit form. They get a message if the form was submitted successfully, and that gives them confirmation at that point that the safety, their job behavioral observation was submitted. Now, what happened after is what I think is key here, because normally when we look at safety audits or job behavioral observations, I think the disconnect or the area of improvement is what happened after. Okay, we completed the form. What do we do now with that information that was collected? And one of the first things that we're doing is that once the form is submitted, I'm going to go back here to my home screen on my iPhone, and I'm going to show you my emails. What I'm showing you right now is we trigger automatic alerts, confirmation alerts to the person completing the JBO. So as soon as I complete my JBO, I receive a email alert with basically all the information collected on the JBO, including the ID information, all the text that was collected, the answers that I provide to every one of the questions, you know, and if I scroll down, you can see every section with every answer. You can even see the signature from the person who completed the JBO and the foreman and the JBO score. So the main reason why we do this is because we want to make sure that the person completed the JBO does not have to worry about following up with an administrative task related to this process. So I don't have to remember to send this to somebody. The minute that I submit the JBO, that information was automatically routed to the correct person or the correct area, and then I also got a confirmation email with all the information so that I can always go back and look at it, or if at some point I need to work with that information, or I need, management is requesting some information related to that JBO, then I can go and look at it on my phone or on my email, sorry. Let me minimize this here and go back to the mobile form. Talking about the alerts and the email that I just showed you, another thing that we're doing with that is the minute that we submit a form and we trigger that alert or that confirmation to the individual performing the JBO, we also have the ability to use conditional logic and send alerts to different individuals in the organization. So we say in this area, once you submit a JBO, then the supervisor, the manager, or the safety supervisor of that area will also get a copy of that JBO. So they get an email alert very similar to the one that you just saw on the screen. And that also opens another possibility that we didn't see or that we couldn't do before, and is escalating the safety audits to the management level in a very timely manner. In the past, with paper form, there was always a challenge with when does management, or when does our safety department, or when does our risk department have the ability to see that somebody completed a JBO, and if there was something on that form that needed to be addressed on a timely manner, or that needed to be escalated, or that maybe needed to trigger a training or a safety meeting or a safety stand down with a group of individuals outside that crew, the time of that of all of that happening was a little bit too long. Now what we're doing is that we're essentially reducing that time to just a few minutes, or an hour or two, where the JBO is submitted, and then our management team receives a copy of the JBO, and if there is something that they see on that JBO, that they can go back to the GF, or they can go back to the person who completed the JBO and essentially address that situation. In most cases, what that will trigger is perhaps you capture something on the job site that we probably need to address with a bigger area, or we got to communicate, and maybe we got to trigger some training. But that's happening a lot faster, which could ultimately prevent incidents because we're addressing them on time. So that's one of the benefits of the conditional logic and the conditional alerts that we incorporated to the process that were there, that were not there before. Another piece of this is the reports, and I mentioned that to you before. Obviously, we're collecting, and as you have seen, or you're probably going to see at some point, every time that we collect information, putting reports together out of that information seems to be a challenge. So we wanted to address that up front to make sure that not only our management team, but the people collecting those JBOs, and ultimately everybody involved in the process could visualize the information that we're collecting, and use that information to improve the safety of their operation. What we're doing is that we, for the most part, are using Microsoft technology to tie that mobile form to a data repository and use that technology to run reports out of it. We have some cases where we even have clients that request or require that we send some of these reports to them, and in the process that and in the past that process was time consuming and require a lot of resources to complete, because if you think of paper form, we were collecting paper forms and we were trying to compile all that data and then manually build reports out of it. Now that process happens, there's a lot more automation in that process, and we can produce those reports on a timely manner, and since people can visualize that information on a timely manner, then they become meaningful and they can ultimately affect safety. So what you're seeing on the screen is just a little screenshot of to illustrate how some of those reports look like, where we group that JBO information, and we can look at scores and how we average those scores, maybe by the section, maybe by the total JBO. Look at JBO counts, so how many are we completed by, maybe GF, by manager, by area, by client, by division, by state, and a lot of that is meaningful information that could potentially trigger training, action, and things of that nature. The last piece of it is what I like to call analytics, and this is something that we are right now starting to explore, but I thought that it was probably a good idea to show here today to convey the full idea of what we're trying to accomplish, and hopefully trigger some ideas on your own, or help you improve some processes in your organization. We're looking at collecting all this information, and at this point now we have reached a level where we have a large volume of data that is being collected from the forms, and you saw all the questions that we had there and all the sections that we had there. So we are at this point now where we're looking at how can we take that data and provide analytics out of it, and look at it and identify safety trends, identify areas of improvement, identify all those kind of key ingredients that we're collecting, and how do they relate to our safety performance as an organization. And what we're looking at is, hopefully by doing that, we can move our safety program to the next level, where we can, when we are producing training or producing information or producing policy or paying attention or allocating resources in a more meaningful way based on what we're looking at the job site that is coming on real time from the safety forms. So that's the main idea of this analytics approach, and the little screenshot that you see in the slide, it kind of illustrates the idea of looking at safety trends by section of the form and scores, and how do they compare to each other. And like I say, we're in the process of evaluating how we can use this data and move forward with it. I will say that if you had the opportunity to join the webinar early today, and you have been following since the beginning, if you look at the process as a whole, we look about a mobile application, and we look about alerts, and we talk about reports, and we talk in this last piece about analytics. What we did is we look at all the information, all these resources that we had available, and we incorporated that into our job behavioral observation process to ultimately, the main goal is that proactive prevention, this area that we have here. To me, I think that we have a very good opportunity at looking at what's happening in the field and using that to make smart decisions to allocate safety resources, develop training and policy, and pay attention to the things that matter out there. I think that we have always had that opportunity, but I think by incorporating some of the mobile technology, that process of how we get to those conclusions becomes more of a cleaner, faster process. And time, when we talk safety, and this is a very personal opinion, when we talk safety, I think time is everything. Because normally, when we don't pay attention to things on a timely manner, that's when things usually happen. And by incorporating some of this technology to the safety audit process, I think we're providing information a lot faster that can potentially impact safety a lot faster, that can potentially prevent incidents a lot faster. So to me, the whole idea of this whole cycle is about time. It's about collecting information faster and easier. It's about looking at that information and getting that information to the right people faster. And it's about making decisions and moving forward with action on a timely manner. That, to me, is the key ingredient to the proactive prevention. Can we do things safety-related on a timely manner? And I think incorporating some of the mobile technology can do that. Obviously, safety-wise, nothing replaces the fundamentals, training, leadership, accountability, common sense, attitude. Those are the key ingredients and the fundamentals for a safe operation. But my goal today was to illustrate how using some technology that nowadays is becoming a lot more reachable and a lot easier to use, how we can incorporate that into safety and take our safety programs to the next level. Try to do something a little bit outside the box. Try to do something that we didn't try before, and see a positive outcome towards safe operation. So with that in mind, I think I wanted to cover the information and have enough time to perhaps answer some questions that you may have, and perhaps answer some questions, I don't know, on the technical side or on the safety side or on the actual form side that you may have. So Connie, I don't know if you can facilitate the questions now.
Sure. Can you give me back the screen?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Okay. Thank you so much for your presentation. It's very informative. The first question I have is, how long has Wright been using this app, and is this a product or just your process?
That's let me start by answering the last question. Is this a product or a process? I think both. The process is overall the same that we used before with the paper form, but now incorporating mobile technology is a better process. So we started with collecting the information in the field using the mobile form. We trigger alerts that go to the person completing the JVO and the management of that area. We process that information and we create reports out of that information. And we're now looking at, from an analytics standpoint, looking at that data and helping our safety department and our risk department to develop training and policy. Now, why it's also a product is because to complete this, we use a couple of products. We use one that let us collect that information using the mobile devices. It's a product that we use that basically let us create the mobile form and capture that data. And then we use another product that is Microsoft-based that basically grabs all that data, and it's what let us build the reports and now hopefully look into some of the analytics. How long we have been using it? We started this project early 2013, conceptually, about January 2013, and we started doing some testing about April of last year, and then we formally implemented the process between the month of July and July and August 2013. So we're reaching, we're getting here to our 1-year milestone in the process.
The second question, how can we get the software? As I mentioned, there are mainly two components to get the software. My contact information is available, and if you would like to contact me directly, I can give you specific details. There are a number of vendors out there that basically provide the mobile technology for forms or mobile forms. And if you contact me, I will be more than happy to provide you with some information and perhaps guide you in the right direction. And what we use for the reporting and getting the alerts is Microsoft technology for that reporting, and for visualizing the information we're using Microsoft SharePoint, and we use Microsoft Exchange for our email system, so that's how we get emails to our phones. The next question, can we receive a copy of the PowerPoint? And Jesus, if you could send that to me, I can upload it to the UAA website.
Absolutely.
And then the next question is this recording for later viewing? Yes, I am taping this, and I'll probably have it uploaded to the UAA website under webinars by the end of the week. Is there anywhere on the form to address near misses?
That's actually a very good question, and I can tell you that this is the conclusion that we came to. We didn't want to incorporate near misses in the safety or in the job behavior observation form, and what we did was we are now going into deploying a similar form that follows the same process to report near misses. So the idea is, or our idea is that our guys are going to have a form that they can use to report near misses, whether that it was a near miss that they observed or a near miss that another employee communicated to them. We're going to use a separate form to track near misses. And the main reason for that is we want to have the ability to track that information separately, because we are going to treat that information differently too, as how we treat near misses. So.
Okay, then the next is a comment. It looks like a great idea. Next question, do you do the same with crews for a job briefing using mobile devices?
Is something that we have been thinking about since we started this process, and I think even before. And I can see it happening at some point long term. The biggest challenge, as some of you in the industry know, is the right device, the right tool, the right time in the truck. So it's something that I'm sure it will happen eventually, and it's definitely on our to-do list.
Are you able to provide custom audit report to mimic existing paper audits with this software?
Can you repeat the question again, Connie?
Are you able to provide custom audit report to mimic existing paper audits?
If I understand the question correctly, the answer is yes. We are able to provide that, and we're able to. What we don't want to is to encourage our guys to do paper forms, but yes, we are able to provide that.
And I think you may have already answered this, but did you create the app for your smartphone or use an outside resource?
We are using an outside resource. What we created was the form that we use. So essentially, we're using a vendor's technology to create our form and deploy it internally. So that's one thing that we're doing. We're the entire process is being done internally. So we use the vendor technology, but we develop our form, we train our employees, we deploy our form, and everything else in the process.
Well, that is the end of the questions, unless someone else has a question they would like to submit. Okay, then I thank you all for your participation on this webinar. The next UAA webinar will be sometime around July. I just want to let you know you'll be receiving a survey by email to evaluate the webinar experience, and please keep in mind the UAA's training committee would like to know what topics are important for you, so your input on that question would be greatly appreciated. If you want one CEU and you did not provide your ISA certification on the registration form, please email me the information. Again, this is Connie, and my email address is down at the bottom of this presentation. And I want to thank everybody again, and have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Goodbye.